Have you started? No, please, let me tell you. Have you started? No, please, let me tell you. Apologies for reaching here late. We can start now. So, what time should it be stopped?
The two discourses should finish by 5:30, but we can also go.
No, this can. What was the time? It should stop at 4:15. Okay, 4:15.
And the second Kaivalya is at 4:30.
All right, 4:15. Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya. Please start. Started? Om Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacham Malam Sharirasya Cha Vaidyakena Yopakarotam Pravaram Muninam Patanjalim Pranjaliranatosmi Abahu Purushakaram Shankha Chakra Siddharinam Sahasra Shirasam Shvetam Pranamami Patanjalim. Om. A very important definition of the word Nirodha, Chitta, because when we say suspension of the thoughts, thought which is necessarily a modification of the mind, then what do you mean by suspension of the thought? Each one of us has, this some sounds, each one of us has ideas when we say stillness of the mind, suspension of the thought, withholding the thought processes. When all these words are used, we go about giving those words implications from our side. But do not forget that those words arrive with their own implications. When we are not able to look at the implications that the words themselves are able to provide, and instead we keep providing the meaning to them, then is losing the original significance. Therefore, the word vritti, chitta vritti nirodha, definition of yoga is chitta vritti nirodha. What is chitta? The mind. Now that also is made clear as this chitta is the modification of sattva guna. So where the illumination of the objects take place, the agency through which the illumination takes place is sattva guna. Its modification is this mind. So now, one thing which you can understand, or which comes as an indication, only as an indication from here, is that your mind is basically consisting of this material which is supposed to be casting illumination. It's a different issue as how does the mind illumine, but it casts. So when there is going to be a disturbed, confused mind, or a mind which is dull, which does not register anything, then that is not the most natural state of the mind either. Because this mind by its own nature is supposed to be, if this word illumination, if I can translate as alertness, knowledge, calmness, joy, with all these implications, this is what is supposed to be with us as an instrument through which your knowledge takes place. But on the other hand, what we find with us is a mind which is at times dull, at times so disturbed, like the various desires raising a storm, and therefore there is confusion. Things are not clear to us. It is in a state of frustration or any undesirable state. So we have to deal with these problems too, to keep all these elements at lowest ebb. The dullness, the sound is clear? The dullness, the confusion, if it is kept at the lowermost end, then you are living a natural way. You are living the most natural way. But that what is unnatural has become natural because we are habituated to living in this condition wherein we are constantly knocked off by one desire, then another, by confusions, by not having the clarity, by making ego issues, several things. It has become almost, we are saying that, well, this is how I'm supposed to be living. But it is natural, is not it? It is not natural. If it was natural, you wouldn't struggle to get out of it. The very fact that you want to get out of it and you want to be in a state wherein you are free from conflicts, free from confusions, there is alertness, there is understanding, there is clarity, there is joy, there is peace with yourself. You want to achieve that state, and hence one is struggling to get out of it. If it was natural, one wouldn't constantly struggle to get out of this. You would have been most comfortable living in confusions, in conflicts. So now, this mind, which is the modification of sattva guna, and the modification of this mind, which are modifications of this mind, which are called as the vrittis or the thought processes. Now, suspension of these thought processes then is called as yoga. What do you mean by that suspension, which was made very clear by the previous sutra that we covered, sutra number 2? Bhoja said that it has got two implications, twofold. One, he said, bahirvritti nirodha, the externalization of the thought is halted, A, and B, niruddhe cha sarvasam vrittinam samskaranam cha pravilayah iti anayoho eva bhumyoho yogasya sambhavaha. And then the other thing that should happen is merging back. There is emerging and merging. Emerging means coming out, and merging means going back. So merging back of the thought and its cause, which is the deeply seated samskaras. Okay? Even those samskaras are rolled back in its own cause. So the thoughts are rolled back into the samskaras are rolled back into its cause, the mind is rolled back into its cause, the sattva guna of the prakriti. Thus, stopping the externalization of the thought and then merging back of the thought process along with its causes, the samskara, etc. Both of these things are brought under the word nirodha. The chitta vritti nirodha, this word has got both the meanings, both these implications embedded in it. Now there was a question, and we have seen that what would happen when the entire process of the thought or the thought along with the mind starts merging back? What happens? What happens for which you are saying that this is samadhi? Here we have seen the sutra number 3. Will you like to repeat it, please? Tada drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam tada drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam Tadam Drashtuhu Swarupe Avasthanam. Okay. When the mind is in such a state, the state of yoga, what happens? The seer, the seer, the one to whom this world is available as the seen, and that's why he is called as the seer. Seer will always be in reference to that what is seen. Who then is the seer? The seer, you are able to see the world, and not only the world which is across the levels of your skin, but the internal world, the world of emotions, the world of hunger and thirst, even and the world of opinions and ideas, the world of fantasies and dreams. Even this world is also seen. But who is it who sees this world? So definitely there is someone who is able to see this entire world. This is all world. Just because there is an internal world and external world, do not consider that to be too different. It is all world. Just by the virtue of it being something which is seen, it already has become the world. It is the world. The world is not what just expands and extends from your skin onwards. What you call as world, something under the skin becomes I, and something beyond the skin you call as the world is a very half-baked definition. In fact, a very erroneous, misleading definition. We live with this, saying that this below the skin is I, and beyond the skin is the world. As long as the bread is going to be in your plate, it is the world. But the same bread goes inside, becomes I. The same bread becomes your bones and skin and the muscles and fat, becomes I. What's the difference? The bread just has changed its form. Tell me, the wheat which was grown by the farmer then was brought, when it was harvested, it had a form. The form was changed when it was dried. When it was then made into flour, it changed the form. When it was kneaded into dough, it changed the form. When it was fermented, it changed the form. When it was baked, it changed the form. When it was cut and laid in your plate, it changed its form. When it was consumed, it changed its form. And when it became the bones, muscles, it changed its form. It's the same wheat, just changing forms. Till then you are calling it as the world, and with one change in form you are calling this as I? A very dishonest way. This is so everything that is seen will fall in the category of world. The one who sees is the seer. Don't be in a hurry to define the seer. All those definitions which are hurriedly made have landed you into sufficient problems. Every time you have tried to define the I and you were dissatisfied, you changed the definition. You found that I am a bachelor, and that was not a very nice definition, and hence I should be a married man. So then you changed the definition, you got a woman and you became a married man. Now, as a married man, I'm still unhappy, let me change. So I change it to a divorced man. And then you change it and change it to something still more and more. And you keep on doing this trial and error, giving definitions to this I, different definitions. Sometimes you belong to this political party and this ideology and this religion and this guru, and all these definitions you keep changing. And none of these definitions you are comfortable with. Because none of these definitions is the meaning of word I. Sage Patanjali is saying that every definition which is provided by this I, by this thought, is a lame definition. It is erroneous. Because what the thought can perceive, what the thought can register, is only the seen. The seer can never be registered by the thought. When you are going to see the clay pot, unless and until that clay pot is perceived by your eyes and registered in the thought, you cannot experience the clay pot. Isn't it? So that the world definitely needs to be imprinted on the thought, and only then the world becomes available. The world is not available to you unless and until the agency of thought works in between. That is what happens. Sometimes you are lost in thought and a friend of yours just happens to pass by and he waves. And your eyes are perfectly open. You are still breathing, which means you are alive. And then he walks by thinking, what happened to this fellow? He comes and tells you the next day, yesterday I waved you when I was passing by. Hey, you didn't even see. What was wrong? He says, and then you are going to say, I didn't see. Why didn't you see? Is only because though he was there, it was adequate sunlight, your eyes were open, and fortunately you were still alive even yesterday, and then you still didn't see, is because that person could not get registered in the thought agency was not available. So in order to see the world, the thought is required. But what about seeing the seer himself? For seeing the seer himself, because this is where the problem is. And Sage Patanjali says, for the seer, you in fact don't require thought. This is what is yoga. For seeing the seer, you don't require the thought. Why? Because the seer is self-illuminous. The thought is not required to illumine, to show, and therefore no definition is going to be an adequate definition. So he says, therefore now let the thought be halted. It is useless. It is useless at this point. So let that be stopped. And there where the thought is in Nirodha. Now that, don't forget the meaning, double-fold meaning of the word Nirodha, where the externalization of the thought is stopped and the thought is merging back in its own cause. Both these things, where this is happening, there the drashta, the seer, whosoever you are, that seer. That seer is not good or bad, beautiful or ugly. Beautiful and ugly things are seen by the seer. That what is seen by you does not even touch you. The seer is so immaculate, joys and sorrows, good and bad, does not even touch the eye. There cannot be any judgment about this self. Tada drashtuhu swarupe vasthanam. That is the time, that is the point where the seer is centered, is seated in his own nature. Is seated in his own nature. Drashtuhu purushasya tasmin kale swarupe chinmatratayam avasthanam. Sthitihi bhavati. Avasthanam means sthitihi. It's a state. Centering in his own nature. He says, what does it mean? Here it goes. Utpanna viveka khyate chit sankrama bhavat kartrutvaabhimanini vrittau prochanna parinamayam buddhau cha atmanah swarupena avasthanam sthitihi bhavati. Now, in case of that mind, the mind in which the discrimination, the understanding is clean and clear, utpanna viveka khyate, where the discrimination understanding is clear, it is not murky, it is not confused over there. Now you are that mind is not going to confuse the seer for the seen. That mind where it is not going to confuse the seen for the seer. When this happens, there is going to be a great deal of freedom even before you attain samadhi. All the nonsense which goes on, wanting to make yourself acceptable to others, as I am good, I am beautiful, call me good, accept me, approve me, all this just withers away. Imagine how much of your energy and how much of your emotion is consumed by just this, making ourselves acceptable to others. Just making ourselves acceptable to others. And others have got some image, and you have to live up to that image. And living up to the images, we have just caught up only living imaginary life. Imaginary. You have become imaginary beings like some unicorn. That nonsense just drops off because people accept and do not accept depending upon their conveniences. It is not because you are acceptable they accept you. When things are convenient to them, they will accept. And when it is not, when you are not going to serve their purpose, they are going to reject you. So it is their need which makes you acceptable or non-acceptable. And here you spend all your life just wanting to make yourself acceptable by others, giving yourself the idea that I am wanted by them, I am needed by them. Nobody wants anything forever and always. You need food, but you don't need food all 24 hours, please understand. You need sleep, but you don't need sleep all 24 hours. It is only when your body is hungry, when your body is tired, you need food or sleep. Nothing is wanted all the time and always, but we keep on saying that people should always want me. I should always be wanted. Come on. That's because you're confused. Make yourself, and this is where you spend time, energy, emotions. And then you find by the time you have made yourself acceptable to the other fellow, he already has changed his imagination. He has already changed his imagination and he says, oh, not this way, I want you the different way. Now you keep on dancing to the tune of others. And this is what you call as freedom. This is what you call as relationship. This is what you call as living. This is just foolishness. Make yourself acceptable. I am not saying make rules and make others follow your rules. I am not even saying that. I am just saying that when a person starts understanding and seeing the difference between the seer and seen, even before the samadhi, you can descend in samadhi. Even before that, most of the nonsense which exists around will just wither away. Will wither away. All the clutter, all the nonsense which is all around you just will fall off. Utpanna viveka khyate hai. So in a person, in the mind, where this discrimination, the understanding of the seer and seen becomes clear. In that mind, now chit sankrama bhavat, because the chit, the consciousness, is not confused with something that is inert. The body-mind complex is not taken for the self, and the self is not understood as the body-mind complex. Chit sankrama bhavat, kartrutva abhimani vrittau. Now, in that thought where the ego was born as I am the doer, I am the doer, I am the doer, what do you do? What do you really do? In case, just take this example, where you see the fire and you run away from the fire. What has happened? You are going to say, well, I have run away from the fire and I have saved myself from getting perished. So there is a kartrutva abhimana, the sense of doership, even the pride of doership, the arrogance of doership, all these things keep on mounting only when there is a sense of doership. But look at that sense of doership, where is it born from? Even to have the pride and arrogance of the doership, where is it born from? Your eyes perceived the fire, the information was carried to the brain, to the intelligence. The brain deciphered and commanded the legs, run, and the legs ran. What did you do? What did you do in this whole situation? What did you do? There was just the stimulus was perceived and response was given. In this case, what did you do? That you are taking that pride that I am the doer and I have done it. The jnanendriyas are working, the karmendriyas are working, the mind is working. What did you do? What did you do in this whole situation? Even at this moment when you are sitting over there and listening, the words are entering your ears, the sounds are being perceived by your ears. Your intelligence is deciphering, evaluating, assimilating, rejecting. All these things are happening. What are you doing at this moment? Where is this doer, the doership that you claim that I am? Where is this doer? प्रोच्छन्न परिणामायाम बुद्धौ कर्तृत्वाभिमानिनी वृत्तौ प्रोच्छन्न परिणामायाम बुद्धौ च आत्मनः स्वरूपेण अवस्थानम. Now, where this discrimination takes place about the seer and the seen, now over there what he says, in that very mind, the thoughts do not give any birth, do not get modified with the idea that I am the doer. Over there, the self remains as the self. Buddha atmanaha swarupena avasthanam sthitihi bhavati. There you are as you are, where the thoughts have halted. You are as you are. You are not as what the thoughts define you to be. If the thoughts define you to be a wife, I have to be a very nice, good wife. If the thought is defining you to be something, you have to prove, you have to do something about it. So these definitions which are given by the thought are perhaps just functional definitions that don't speak anything about you. It's just functional and nothing more. And therefore he who starts understanding what is, he means he, she, whosoever. Wherever this understanding takes place about the self, there now the samadhi can descend. It is possible that this samadhi shall descend. And as the samadhi descends, so also the understanding becomes even more clearer and clearer. That you are consciousness, not a personality, but the person behind the personality. Personality consists of psychology and the physical body. A man, a woman, the physical body. The good man, the good woman, the naughty man, the mischievous woman, all these things are there about the psychology. All this is the psychology, the personality. But you can be a naughty man only if you are present behind this personality. There can be a naughty man only when you are going to be there behind the personality. The mask by itself does not have any life. The mask will be useful only when it is being worn by someone. The one behind the mask is not the mask. Mask is just incidental. It is incidental. More clearly you start seeing this. A change starts taking place in that psychology. Because even that psychology which is deeply entrenched only in ignorance functions in a different way, and that psychology which bathes in the light of knowledge functions in different way. You see, I'm not going to give you the example of rope and snake, but just a rubber snake. So when you see the snake, but you do not know whether it is real or not, the psychology functions in a different way. When you know that it is just a rubber snake, the psychology functions in a different way. Now your response is not that of fear, but the response is that of amusement. When there is knowledge and when there is ignorance, the psychology also has a different way of functioning. When you do not know, when that psychology which does not register the nature of the seer functions in a different way, and that psychology which sees has the discrimination of the seer and seen functions in a different way. That's it. So now the teacher says, what happens when the mind is not absorbed in the state of samadhi? Because samadhi is a state where the thoughts are at rest. Then there is also going to be a state where the thoughts start erupting. Then what happens when the thoughts are, that mind is in a state where the thoughts are erupting? What happens then? And here comes the fourth sutra. Kindly repeat. Vritti sarupyam itaratra. Vritti sarupyam itaratra. Vritti sarupyam itaratra. Itaratra means in other cases. Which other case? Other than the samadhi. When the vrittis, when the thought modifications, when the modifications of the mind, the thoughts are available, are there, what happens? He says, over there, the seer is again identified with the thought. The seer is identified with the thought. What is that? Let's see. Tomorrow? Is it tomorrow? In the next class, whenever you find out on your... On Thursday. Okay, so we meet on Thursday to see this Sutra number 4. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, friends. Thank you very much. We have the next session of Kaivalya Upanishad. Joy.